In the early 1960s, one soft drink outsold almost everything in America. Not Pepsi, not 7-Up. A diet soda that didn't exist 5 years earlier hit fourth place in the entire country. Not fourth among diet drinks, fourth overall. The company behind it wasn't Coca-Cola, it wasn't Pepsi. It was a small cola company out of Columbus, Georgia. RC, mention RC Cola today, and you'll get a shrug. Maybe a vague memory of a can in a cooler somewhere, next to brands people actually recognize. So here's the mystery. How does a company that invented diet soda, pioneered the modern can, and beat Coke and Pepsi to nearly every major packaging innovation of the century end up almost invisible? This isn't a story about running out of ideas. It's about what happens when being first isn't enough. 1901. A young pharmacist named Claud Hatcher walks away from his own 2 drugstores to join his father's grocery business. Grocers back then didn't sell bottled soda the way we picture it. They bought cola syrup from traveling salesmen and mixed it with soda water themselves right at the counter. His supplier is Coca-Cola. Atlanta sets the price. Hatcher has no leverage. He gets sick of it, so he stops being their customer. No lab, just the basement of the family store. He starts mixing his own soda by hand. Ginger ale first, then root beer, then a cherry cola he calls Chero Cola. It takes off fast enough that the whole business gets renamed after it. Fast enough that Coca-Cola sues him just for using the word cola. The lawsuit drags on for years. Hatcher doesn't back down, then the hard decade. A sugar crisis he tries to outsmart with his own refinery, and it nearly buries the company in debt when prices crash right after the war ends. The Depression hits next. Sales collapse across the industry. And on New Year's Eve 1933, Hatcher dies at 57. He never sees what he built become anything more than a regional business fighting to survive. His successor, H.R. Mott, cuts the weak products and clears the debt in a year, then makes the call that defines everything after. He brings back Hatcher's original cola, reformulated under the founder's own name. It's an instant hit. On shelves in 47 states by 1940. This is where RC stops being a regional story and becomes something stranger. A company that keeps inventing the future of its own industry and keeps losing the credit for it. 1954. First beverage company in America to can soda nationally. A few years later, one of the first to the all-aluminum can, a standard the entire industry eventually copies as its own. Then the big one. RC's chemists solve a problem nobody else had. A sugar-free cola that doesn't taste like a chemistry set. Diet Rite launches and explodes. Coca-Cola and Pepsi haven't even entered diet soda yet. For a few years, RC owns the category outright alone. That window doesn't stay open long. Coke launches Tab. Pepsi launches Diet Pepsi. Neither company builds anything new to do it. The same trucks on the same routes to the same grocery chains just add a new can to the load. What cost RC years of research and its own hard-built distribution network to invent? Coke and Pepsi bolt onto a machine that already existed. RC built the category. It didn't own it for long. Then the government bans the sweetener in Diet Rite over cancer fears. Overnight, RC has to reformulate its biggest product. Coke and Pepsi have the ad budgets to reassure customers through the transition. RC, still the smallest of the three, does not. The pattern is set. RC arrives first. The giants arrive later, with a pipeline already built and paid for. By the mid-90s, RC's market share had shrunk to about 2.5%. Coke, 43%. Pepsi, 31%. But the deepest wound didn't come from either rival. It came from a hostile takeover. Victor Posner, a Miami investor, one of the original pioneers of the leveraged buyout, buys RC for roughly $300 million. He'd built an entire career doing this, buying companies, draining them for compensation, moving on to the next one. A federal judge would later ban him from running public companies at all, and used exactly that phrase to describe him. Under his ownership, RC's marketing budget shrank. At the precise moment, Coke and Pepsi were fighting the most expensive advertising war in American consumer history. RC couldn't fight a war it wasn't funding. 4 owners in 34 years. Each one moved RC a little further from anyone who had a real reason to fight for it. It wasn't destroyed in a single moment. It was gradually absorbed, sold, and folded into someone else's portfolio. And yet, RC never actually disappeared. It's the best, selling soda in the Philippines, thriving under local bottlers who gave it its own identity, far from the war that sidelined it back home. And every June, a small Tennessee town throws a festival built around one thing: an ice-cold RC and a moon pie. Tens of thousands of people show up. Nobody's paying them to. RC Cola's story was never about running out of ideas. It's about what happens when a company keeps arriving first, and still can't turn that into staying power. Because being first was never the hard part. RC had already proven twice that it could out-innovate companies many times its size. Put that momentum into marketing instead of a Raiders paycheck, and RC might have held on as a real, permanent number 3, the way its own sibling brand, Dr. Pepper, eventually did decades later. We'll never know for certain, but the timing is hard to ignore. RC didn't disappear because nobody wanted what it made. People are still buying it today, right now, in gas stations across the South, in supermarkets across the Philippines, and at a small town festival in Tennessee built around a soda and a marshmallow snack. It disappeared from the national conversation because 2 bigger companies took RC's own ideas, the can, the Diet Cola, and the taste test, and turned them into their own advertising campaigns, while RC was still paying off the cost of inventing them in the first place. So next time you see a can of RC Cola, remember what it actually is. Half the modern soda aisle exists because a pharmacist in a Georgia basement got tired of being pushed around by Coca-Cola. He just never got the credit for it. If you liked this one, subscribe for more stories about the brands that shaped American life and somehow got left behind. Tell me in the comments, is there a brand from your childhood that just quietly disappeared and you never knew why?